Introduction. After acquiring this gift, I have conversed and encountered many wonderful beings. I have traveled into different worlds and have learned and improved a lot in the past 2 years. I am going to present to you a session that I have tried a couple of times without any success. This is one of its kind because it involves communication with what has been labeled as inorganic matter. I believe everything has its time. And when you try something and see it doesn't work, it is most likely not the right time. The session started as an idea, on which I started to initiate a communication with water. Then from there it turned out to be interesting and enlightening. By now I no longer consider ideas or thoughts to be my own. So I let them flow without the sense of possessing or controlling them. This way I see them for what they are. The session spanned over a period of 3 weeks, where I got bits and pieces of information. And now I think it is at a stage where I can at least share it with the public. I did a session to understand how the ancient pyramids were built. During the session, it was implied that they were built on the principle of vibrations and frequencies. After performing this session, I can clearly see how the ancient Egyptians were able to apply these principles to erect large stones and construct the pyramids. For this reason, I believe the information I am sharing could be constructive and bring some good to humanity. But at the same time, there are those power-seeking individuals that might misuse this knowledge to bring destruction. So, by reading and acquiring insights from this material, you have agreed not to use this information to harm or violate any other sentient being's will. All of the information in this material should be treated as insights, experiments, or entertainment. How does tuning in work? After performing several sessions, I have gained some insights and theories on how this process of acquiring information works. The human mind is like a tuning fork. Every thought held in the space of mind automatically generates a specific frequency that disturbs the fabrics of space, also known as ether. It attracts or targets similar frequencies. Then these frequencies begin to interfere with the original vibrations in your mental space. These interferences are then translated into the closest related ideas, memories, or mental images to produce closed-loop concepts. Therefore, the channeled message depends on how an individual can maintain and extract this interference of vibrations without contaminating them. The human mind is also not bound by time and space. So sometimes the exchange of information is a real-time exchange, as it is now, where both sides are sending and receiving messages. This could happen where a channeler is only extracting information from other higher or lower aspects of a target without that target being on live interaction. Because of the different times and spaces, you may do a session, take a break for a day or two, and resume your channeling while a fraction of a second has not passed on the channeled subject. Therefore, the message could be addressed in the first person, second, or third person. My methods always begin with salutations, where I introduce myself and get a greeting from the subject. Afterward, warm up with gibberish or statements that tune and synchronize the vibrations together. And then the actual message. Whispers from water. Salutations. I greet you in the name of the family of great grand creation. I come with respect, peace, and love. I wish to understand you and build a relationship with you. Wide, like the ocean, thunder in a mighty roar. Yet soft and gentle, quiet and polite. Unity and omnipotence. We welcome and salute you. We belong to the third sphere of life. The first being space, the second being light, and the third being us. We are the source from which all life arises. In different stages of your existence, you are partly us and completely us. We consume, yet we create. We digest, but we still spill. All known elements are our offspring. This being the third sphere, we created plants. That plants are the fourth sphere. Insects being in the fifth sphere, then animals, and finally humanoids. You are in the inner sphere of creation, and we are here to serve you. You cannot see us in a true form because we live in a different realm of reality in which you perceive us merely as fluid. Various spins of vortices can create an illusion that you perceive as matter or substance. But every spin of a vortex is water. Even fire is an offspring of water, except that it is very fast and sharp. Fire has the potential to burn inside water. With proper conditions, It creates a chemical reaction that can extract oxygen directly from the water. This chemical reaction becomes enveloped by another thin layer that is the chemical reaction of detaching what you know as oxygen. Not only on the microscopic level, but on the fundamental levels, that all is one, that when you view things on the microscopic level, you are not really perceiving miniature stuff, but you are viewing the reflection of your plane of reality on a broader scope, from a far distance, and that you are only viewing a reflection of the whole, the waveform of the particle. It is another dimension where what you see down there exists on another spectrum of light, with different times and paces of motion. For this reason, you can't penetrate to reach it, and that its space is vast but little to you, as in within your hair follicle there are worlds. If you can change the frequencies of light or its contrast and its vibrations, you will see clearly that they are not microorganisms but beings going around with their daily activities as you are. If you transmute into a being of energy, then you will be able to penetrate these borders. You will be able to cross the boundary between these time spaces. You will also find similar humanoids with similar activities if you manage to penetrate these worlds. And that the layers surrounding these microbes are unseen energy fields around individual beings. You are not bodies with shapes and forms on energetic levels. Instead, you appear as spherical blobs interacting with other energies. If someone is thinking of someone else, they become entangled. On an energetic level, these blobs look as if they are merging. If someone has a harmful intention towards someone else, then one blob would be seen disintegrating another. So the activities appear as clusters of energy and not as you perceive in your physical world. And that this is what you see when you peer at a microscopic level. That you are looking at the same thing only from a different dimension. These dimensions are nested spheres of reality on top of each other where the same thing appears in different forms and shapes. These spheres are octaves that represent the aspects of man. Different substances have different life settings. That, for example, if you penetrate into the microscopic or nanoscopic world of metal, you will find mechanical worlds, but in the nanoscopic world of organisms, you will find biological life forms. That is to say, also the elements represent different stages of development of life and civilizations. As a result, when someone is falling from the sky, they are in fact falling from other realms, due to the fact that your space is also a border between dimensions. Those beyond it exist in different time spaces. By crossing between the borders of different worlds or dimensions, your body must transform energetically from what it is to what it is in the other dimensions. The body loses or consumes a massive amount of energy once it crosses these dimensional boundaries. Thus, water is a perfect transporter and preserver of all organisms. Their essence can be transported from one realm to another in a preserved state. It was used and it is used to teleport beings from one corner of the galaxy to another. Your understanding of the properties of water is only a fraction of its potential. Even on the energetic levels, water is inherently different from all other substances. When your scientist acquires knowledge of manipulating time, then they will come to know or realize how to create all other substances out of water. As all substances are the offspring of water, even hydrogen is water at a different stage. This is because water is only a segment of a continuum spectrum of a larger life cycle. What you perceive as water is at its optimum level. It is at its mature level, but it continues its journey from that state to become biological organisms. There are a variety of water cycles, and these cycles are what are destined to become a specific physical substance, such as iron, gold, tin, lead, and so on. The projected energy takes a certain path or sequence to grow or decay to become these substances. But on the fundamental level, they are all water. They are the offspring of water, branching from a single ancestor which is water. For the lack of terms, we can call them quantum particles. These quantum particles of water are the foundation of reality. They are the sources of what you perceive as physical substances. An individual quantum particle produces a pulse, and each pulse consists of a time-space cycle, or in other words, a universe from the creation stage to the destruction stage. At every moment, in the smallest fragment of time, there are new universes being created. In other words, on each breath you take, There are versions of its futures and pasts created, and then the entire reality collapses to begin that journey of creation again. So as a moment passes by, the time is not continuous, but the creation and collapsing of instances with incremental changes. All of these creations and collapses of realities are also preserved on hyperdimensions, where events are grouped as energy clusters that one can easily move from to another. These pulses are what create parallel realities. The sky is but a myriad of other dimensions where the stars are the gates and pathways to other worlds. And these worlds are not as you imagine, they are not as you imagine moving into space until you land on a planet, but a staggering number of worlds. A matrix of worlds stashed on top of each other but separated by time and space dilation. Materialistically, water is the source, the origin of life, and the ancestor of all matter. As we have explained, space comes first, then light, then water. Water is omnipresent. It is one thing in all things. It is first one thing, then space is also water, and light is also water. There are 7 phases of water. As you know, the 3 states of matter are solid, liquid, and gas. Looking at these states of matter, you know that water cycles through these phases. It can be ice, liquid, or vapor. What you can't see is that this is a small portion of the larger cycle of water. This is because the larger cycle of water is the vein that supplies life on all different levels of existence. It is like a stem with branches. Branching out is a variety of different elements of matter. 7 phases of water. The first phase of water is at the point of 0 Kelvin. At this stage, there is no exchange of energy. This is because the material density is at its lowest and depleted of all energy. There is no movement either. All matter becomes impenetrable. When charged with a bit of energy, that is when it can create different substances, which you perceive as rocks, metals, sand, etc. The next stage is the liquid state, which you see as water. And then from there, with the interaction of different energies, it becomes organisms. This means all biological life is also a phase of water. Life is a product of water that creates different patterns when instructed by light. Then you realize that the vaporous state is not just a free state. It is a whole world on its own. It is composed of living creatures in different forms that you cannot perceive because their speed is faster than your own. As a result, water molecules become extremely charged and become electromagnetic particles. There are also many beings that exist in this realm at this time, which are even at a faster pace than you. And the last phase is that of ether or space. This is the omnipresent state where one particle exists in all places at once. It permeates all except the first phase of water, which is the absolute 0 Kelvin, the container of all. This omnipresent state is the conscious state of water. Creation of dimensions in an octave. Therefore, water is a living being that contains all, in the sense that water is all. At the densest level, it supports all the other phases of water, where it is a cocoon or egg. It is shaped this way because at the center it is at its optimal level. This is the actual water. But then as you dive on denser parts, it becomes narrow. And also as the vibration increases, it becomes narrow to the point that it cannot be narrow anymore. In their interiors, these states are 90 degrees different from their previous phases. For example, turning from liquid to vapor. The dimension of vapor is perpendicular to that of water, and the dimension of water is perpendicular to that of solid. As this spiral vortex turns, it becomes narrow at the last phase of water, which is a conscious state of water. However, it is connected to the external shell at the very top. This external shell is the densest phase of water. Therefore, the exchange of energy happens at the top and bottom respectively. It also reveals an even broader reality, namely, that even universes are shaped in this way, with mechanisms of spirals and dimensions rotating 90 degrees. When the water reaches its optimal level, all the energies begin to converge. They converge to form a reflective reality or a mirror reality, based on the actual 5 phases of water. This reality is independent. So between the elemental phase and the electromagnetic phase, there is a mirror reality of these phases, which is created based on what is happening within those primary realms. and that these mirror dimensions are within the cycles of water, which is from the n-eighth of the water container. If you view the egg, these dimensions range from the thickest part of the egg to the bottom. Hence, it creates a total of 12 dimensions. These mirror dimensions are created in such a way that they are the opposite poles of the actual dimensions. They are the upside down of each of the 5 dimensions, which can be accessed at the vortex in the center. As they say that a universe is a hologram, it is because of this that even a person is a reflection of water, because they contain these 7 aspects of water. It means at the threshold of one phase of water, it is the base of one realm. To clarify, in a vaporous state, the vapor becomes the foundation of the realm. This means that whatever exists in that realm cannot and does not penetrate the vapor, which to them is the impenetrable state. Again, for the electromagnetic realm, it is arranged in the same manner. The electromagnetic spectrum is the densest state of that realm where everything beyond it cannot penetrate below it. And that the 7 aspects of man are the reflection of the 7 phases of water. That soul corresponds to the densest phase of water. Then the quantum phase corresponds to the consciousness of man. The electromagnetic phase corresponds to the mental aspect of man. The vapor state corresponds to the spirit or will level of man. The liquid phase corresponds to the emotional level of man. The biological level corresponds to the biological body of man. Then the last elemental level corresponds to the surroundings of man. And these are the 7 phases of water in correspondence to the 7 aspects of a man respectively. In scientific terms, it means these different phases of water are aligned by differences in vibration. However, within the same range of vibration which is within one phase of water, the difference in frequencies is what aligns the octaves within one phase of water. So, then what's beyond and outside the cocoon of water? A cocoon of water and the contents within it are the foundation and fractal pattern of a larger quantum particle in the actual reality of water. Now, water exists as living beings rather than fluid. And these cocoons in turn are the living cells within the beings we perceive as liquid water. And that our reality is the result of the interaction between the consciousness of these beings and our consciousness. That these beings are what are referred to as earth spirits.